A midrash about the first death. Adam and Eve knelt beside the body of their slain son. Eve wailed as she cradled her second child's body in her arms. Neither Adam nor Eve knew what to do next. No one had ever died before. The pain that these parents felt was overwhelming. Grief washed over them in violent waves. There were no words for this agony. It was beyond context, beyond measure, a loss beyond comprehension. A raven in Orev landed not far from the grieving couple. And beside it was the corpse of another bird, one of its brethren. As they watched, the raven dug a small hole and gently placed its friend inside. Then it filled the hole with earth. Adam, who himself had come from Adamah, from earth, understood what he was supposed to do. He dug a grave and buried Abel, and all the while Eve was weeping. There are too many weeping mothers today. Too many weeping mothers. Their cries call out in a wail so great that we can hear no other sound. A cry that is deafening. All the mothers in Israel are weeping. Weeping for their dead children and grandparents. Weeping for their husbands who are gone to war. They are weeping for those who are still missing, the captives and the unidentifiable. Weeping for the raped and the maimed. Weeping for the terrified and the terrorized. Weeping for the lost and the ones who have lived but will always bear the scars of that horrifying day. All the mothers in Israel are weeping. Our tradition is unabashed about the tears of mothers. I realized once that all the traditional Torah and Haftorah readings for Rosh Hashanah are about wailing mothers or lost children. Not only what we do in Reformed synagogues, but all of the readings over 2 days of Rosh Hashanah that our conservative and Orthodox brothers and sisters read. On day 1, we read the story of Hagar, who is sent into the desert by Sarah after Isaac is born. When Hagar is sure that she and her son Ishmael will die of thirst, she places him in a bush and walks away. She thinks to herself, "Let me not look on as this child dies." And the Torah says, "V'tisa et kola v'tevech." And she raised her voice and wept. Out in the wilderness, Hagar cries for her son. And then we read of Hannah, who was so desperate for a child that she sat in the temple and wept. The Haftorah says, "V'tivkeh v'lo tochal." She wept and she did not eat. Up in the shrine, Hannah cries out for her son. On day 2, we read the story of the binding of Isaac. According to the Midrash, when Sarah received the news that her husband had almost killed her only son, it killed her. In grief and in agony, she let go of life. Alone in her tent, Sarah cries out for her son. And in the second day Haftorah, we read the words of the prophet Jeremiah. A cry is heard from Ramah, wailing and bitter weeping, Rachel weeping for her children. Our tradition imagines Rachel, buried near the road from Jerusalem generations before, could see as the Israelites went into exile, and she wept for them, praying to God to remember them. Even from beyond the grave, Rachel cries for her children. 2 of our holiest days of the year and all of our readings center the pain of mothers. It's a miracle we can hear anything else on that day above the din of their cries. That word, bocheh, to cry, to wail, appearing in each story. It's the same word in that midrash about Eve, as if Eve, mother of all, gave birth to a long tradition of wailing women, mothers who will have to bury their dead. It is so hard to look at them, so hard to see their excruciating pain. It is much easier to hide behind numbers and political statements. It is easier to debate policy, to argue the finer points of international law. But we mustn't look away, not from the mother who weeps for her children, not from any mother in her moment of agony and need, not from any mother. The mothers in Israel and the mothers in Gaza, whose tears are just as true, whose sons' blood is just as red as ours. Hamas, the terrorist organization bent on the destruction and death of Jews, is our enemy. And Israel must protect itself from this clear and present danger. But we cannot do so in a way that ignores that the militants still have mothers, and that there are millions in Gaza who are not Hamas, who do not wish the death of Jews. Their lives have also been terrorized by Hamas's leadership, and their losses are also real. Anyone who tells you that some weeping mothers are more tragic than others is not listening closely enough to their cries. They are all descendants of Eve, and in each of their cries is an echo of the cry of the first mother to mourn the death of brothers at the hands of brothers. We are all weeping for cruelty perpetrated against the Jewish people on one of our holiest days, weeping for this pogrom unlike anything we have seen in 2 generations, weeping for lives cut short, weeping for lives upended, weeping for terror inflicted, weeping for a human tragedy on a scale so large that it defies comprehension. We must be unequivocal about naming the perpetrators of these acts: Hamas, terrorists, and zealots who pursue nothing but Israel's destruction. But we must also be unequivocal about who our enemy is not. Our enemy is not all Muslims, not all Palestinians, not all children of Ishmael. Our enemy is not anyone who is committed to peace, not anyone who can accept that Jews are entitled to live without fear. These heinous acts perpetrated against our brethren are so shocking, so demoralizing that they threaten to rob us of our humanity. Those of us who have seen the videos and heard the reports of what happened in Israel on Simchat Torah are at risk of being so overwhelmed with these hateful acts that our hearts turn to stone. But let the cries of all these mothers crack us open again and rekindle the fire of our humanity. I don't know much. I don't know what the days to come will bring. I don't know how to make sense of the senseless. I don't yet know how we will rebuild. I feel like Adam and Eve staring at Abel's lifeless body with no idea what to do next. The raven in the Midrash comes to teach 2 lessons. The first is the practical: what will humans do with their dead? But there is a deeper, spiritual lesson to be taught as well. The first man and woman have not only encountered the first death, they have also encountered the first murderer, and he is also their son. They have seen evil for the first time, the evil that one human being can inflict upon another. How are they to make sense of that? How are they to go on living knowing such evil exists? The rabbis teach that the orev, the raven, is the most evil of birds. It is cruel to its young, often abandoning its offspring at birth. And yet, Adam and Eve see it do this act of kindness. The rabbis teach that the act of accompanying the dead for burial is the greatest of all kindnesses, because it is a gift that can never be repaid. So here, the raven teaches Adam and Eve a second lesson: that the response to evil is kindness, that the response to death is goodness, that the response to darkness is light. I don't know much, but here are the things I do know. I know that we cannot turn away from these weeping mothers. I know that our kindness is what they need right now, our support, our attention, our advocacy. I know that we will not debate whose mothers have suffered more, whose children are more deserving of life. We will not compete for whose pain is greater. The story of Hagar reminds us that any human suffering is a tragedy without measure, and we will not suppress anyone else's humanity. I know that we cannot become the monsters that Hamas hopes to make us. We cannot respond to inhumanity with more inhumanity. Justice, safety, security, these should all be guaranteed to Israel as to every nation on earth. And she has a right to defend herself and her people, not just a right in obligation. But vengeance, cruelty, and hatred, these are not Jewish. Because I know the world needs Israel now more than ever. Not just the political state of Israel that has always been and will always be a safe haven to Jews in a tumultuous world. Not only a democracy in a part of the world that has too few, but also the idea of Israel. If ever there was a time to be a light unto the nations, it is now in this darkness. We are the Jewish people who, despite countless generations of hatred and discrimination, have cultivated a message of hope. We are the Jewish people who, despite pogrom after pogrom, teach a message of holiness. We are the Jewish people whose prayers begin and end with peace. There are those who seek to destroy us. There always have been. But we cannot let them rob us of our highest vision for humanity. We will not let them diminish our light. We will not let them steal our joy. Despite the innumerable tragedies that have befallen the Jewish people, we have never given up on Jewish joy. We have never given up on holidays that bring us together to celebrate. We have never given up on Shabbat and its abiding wholeness. We have never given up on hysterical Jewish jokes and delicious Jewish recipes, on the mitzvah of visiting the sick or celebrating with the wedding couple. We have never stopped living, never stopped laughing, never stopped learning, never stopped loving. There are those who want us to live in fear. There are those who want us to shutter our windows and turn out the lights on this 3,000-year-old Jewish project. But we will not. We cannot. Our joy is the greatest form of resistance we have ever learned. Hazorim, Bedima, Barina, Iksoru. Those who sow in tears will reap in joy, declares the psalmist. I fear it will be a long season between sowing and reaping. I fear the seeds we water with our tears will take a long time and a lot of work before we can bring in the harvest. But I believe that day will come, because I believe we are the people who plant possibility and harvest hope. But we are not there yet, not nearly there. We have not even fully descended into the depth. And in this long night, this plague of darkness, we need to find each other. We will come together as a community on nights like tonight to find each other, to listen to each other and to cry together, to offer strength and support, to pray together and dream together about the world we might build with our light. Tonight I pray for all of us that we might be safe and feel safe, that we might be loved and feel loved. I pray for Israel, that she has the right to do what is needed and the courage to do what is right. I pray for the captives, that they may be redeemed soon. I pray for Israel's soldiers who fight a war they did not ask for and who will carry these days with them always. But mostly, I pray for the mothers, for all the weeping mothers in all the world, for all who cry out to God in pain and agony. May they know light, may they know hope, may they know love, and may they find comfort. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may this be God's will. Amen.
Nacha to take care of one another. Comfort us in our wilderness. Comfort us as we struggle with this world. Nachamu, Nachamu. Ami Yomar Elohechem. Nachamu.